as we go through. Okay, I'm going to start sharing the screen already, and so that we've got it on the screen, and we're going to begin. So we've got day 5. Okay, so we've got day 5 of Empowering Leadership AI Challenge. So that's what we've been doing. So what have we been doing since Monday? So like I said, it's great to see you back on. So why did we start this challenge? Just kind of always as a reminder, why we're doing something. It's to build our own AI assistant. And my wish, as I said yesterday, was to have your assistants, right? So they become your agents that you can call on. And what it does, it enhances your leadership skills. Now, as soon as we start doing this, it really hones in on our businesses or how we show up in our practice, because it makes us kind of think clearly about what that's going to look like. So we're going hands-on with this and really clarifying some of those messages. And I wanted it kind of AI, wanted it available for anyone who perhaps hasn't had experience in this, so it kind of is accessible. That's my wish, and that's why I got into coaching. Is I want this kind of accessible for people to kind of understand that it's all possible, right? It's about shortening the gap there and helping people bridge that gap. And you want to be able to connect with other leaders, so this is a great platform to learn from one another, and then of course having that support, so kind of hand on hand to answer those questions. Hopefully you all got the recordings. I shared the recordings from day 1 up until day 4, and of course I'll share today's afterwards as well. So just in terms of, so I'm going to answer a couple of the questions that came up. So as we started on day 1, and we began with customizing, from the settings, we went in and we wanted it to understand who we were and what you are, right? So as soon as we go into the GPT environment, we have that. So you may have noticed that when you go into your chat, what it does, it gives you a very kind of typical starter in an email, say, sequence, which often isn't the way you might be writing. And it's a little bit like clunky and it's very generalized. So what you can do is, kind of following on from this challenge, you might want to go back into those settings and sort of hone in on the voice and tone. So you might, when you've got conversation starters, for example, how do you want that tone to be? The professionalism, the warmth that you might have, greetings, sign-offs, you might have like, if we've got like, I know for myself, the way I write, I have this like way of writing, right? So I know kind of my emails start like this and I end like that. And so I can actually already do that in the settings so that it saves me having to every time go in and put that in. And as soon as I evoke my assistant, it will understand as well. That's kind of how I want my messages to begin and end. So, if you were to put a prompt in, so something that we've not delved into too much here, but I'll definitely be looking into this in terms of soft prompting and how we then prompt in the chat, then we want it to kind of have this way of writing that kind of shows up as us, right? I find that really something really helpful, certainly, and it saves time, right? So you're not having to each time type it in. It's like that you want to kind of cut back on that time. So yeah, sort of like salutations, that type of thing. So you've got like, you might start content structure, you may have like, you might say present the main point followed by key details. This helps to have like a sequence that you may follow. Maybe if it's something that you do, often enough, you'll find that you have a certain way of doing things. Do you remember yesterday? And I said, sometimes we can tell it, we can say what not to do. Now, kind of like the very formal way of addressing someone, saying this, kind of an email, dear sirs or dear madams, like dear sir, madam, you may just like not use that, right? Like creatives may not want that sort of even showing up. So you might just tell it that that's not what you want. But if it's something you want, then of course you'd keep it for yourselves in there. But yeah, in feedback messages now for me, what like I want to start with strengths. I don't want to just go straight into kind of highlighting people's weak points. So certainly as a coach, I want to kind of lean on that. And of course, giving constructive feedback, I may then sandwich that, where the development's needed, I'd kind of put that in the middle and then end on a note that kind of, lets them move forward. So you may have structures, scenarios like that. And this will help generating these responses when, that sound more like you in setting up. So that was what we did on day one, right? And I haven't forgotten, Erica, because you still want that text. So I'm going to share that with you as well. So what we put in the bit where we had descriptions about us and how there was like the monologue bit, I can certainly share that with you. Something that came up in conversation that Erica was asking is when we were setting up our assistants, do we click, do we tick that sort of like icon to say, yes, we want to tick that to say we want Dali kind of there in our assistant? Because if we don't tick that, right, when we create it, so when we attempt to create images, for example, so, when you go into the chat box and then you ask it to create an image or an infographic, it won't do that because you haven't ticked the Dali box in the side. I'll show what I mean later on so that hopefully that makes sense. So, for example, in Erica's case, she's going to want like custom room designs. She's going to want to have like, that's going to be something that she can add in there. So you've got things like presentation, design, real-time kind of options, mood boards, you might have Miro boards, that type of thing, if any of you use that. And, boost marketing. So you might have images of your own portfolio. In terms of embedding links in the kind of, in your assistant, was one of the other questions that came up. You can do that. Just make sure that the link, if it's a website, that it's up to date and it's got, the info you want. Otherwise, like we said, you can save it and put it into the document in your knowledge base. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so that's kind of some of the stuff that came up, and I always like to kind of like have those answers so that you otherwise you're going back thinking, okay, do I put it in, do I not, like having those answers, and hence like these live sessions are so important that we can draw on those. So yeah, you can embed that link in there if you decide to. Now back to today. So we're discussing how you plan to use your AI assistant. So an overview of what we've been doing is a brief intro and its purpose, right? So we've been saying, what is it that we want our assistant to do? We'll see an example of, what I've done is I've looked at one of the ones I created, and I'll go through that in a few moments. So hopefully when we come to looking at what you've done, we'll have kind of by the end of today, you'll all say how you'll be able to assess your own. So my wish is that you're assessing your own assistant by today and even like grading it, right? So that's kind of like for you to kind of go, yeah, is it the level I want it to be, or is there things that I still need to do? So you could have, the reason I did this actually as I was going through this is, say, for example, you're giving one, we can have this in conversation here, but the other thing is if you were going to give it to someone and they didn't really know what the function of that assistant was, of course you could just share the link with them, but actually wouldn't it be easier if you had like an intern or someone helping you, that you could say, this is the function of the assistant, this is the link, this is how they interact, and these are some of the questions and the features as well. So, and also best practices for effective use. So I'm going to show you this a little bit more in a few moments. So tips on how to get the most of your system by asking questions and engaging in follow-up conversations. That's really important. So for example, if you have a prompt that kind of is surface level, this is where the deep kind of thinking or learning comes in place, because it can really start probing, and it gets you to think a little bit more kind of out of the box thinking. The interesting thing is we're in this environment, which is the GPT environment, but actually out of the box thinking is phenomenal. So we also, and say as a user, you could then ask for you could say that, there's some, you ask it for, you could have, how do you get feedback on the assistant? So that will be vital as well. I'll say a little bit more about this. In conclusion, is the final thoughts on the benefits of using the system. So I've got what I did was I've created this as an overview, as so that we can start visually thinking about what that might look like. So so kind of a section would be a brief intro, like the name of the assistant, right? So remember we started saying we want to give it a name. And so I initially, when I started this, it was just called Bally Biz Bot. Like it's now Bally Biz AI Assistant, right? So I put instructions there because I was looking at putting instructions so we can share here. But the overview is a brief intro. What is Bally Biz AI Assistant and its purpose? Like nobody knows what it is, right? And so what then, how assess, so how do we know, how do I access the assistant? So there's a link, and that link is a private link, but would be available if I shared it with, so if I shared it with you, you'll be able to access it. So if you had a team of people working, you could have that, you could create something like that for them. And I really like this concept. So for example, with Crest, though, you could have different clients, and say for the client, you could have these kind of descriptors and almost like say how you want the assistant to interact, right? And there might be example phrases. I'll show you a little bit more as we go through. Suggested questions. So you've got example questions. User can ask Bally Biz AI Assistant. Features. You've got best practice for effective use. So there'll be tips and questions on engaging follow-up questions. Feedback, how to provide feedback where to get technical support. So there could be a component within that if there's any issues. And this becomes even more important when you start trying to link it with external providers of the tools, right? So we have those are then like the technical support element, right? So they're speaking to, we have APIs which kind of connect with different tools, payment tools, that type of thing, because that's where the security bit comes in. But yeah, so there's the final thoughts, using Bally Biz Assistant for leadership and coaching. So how would I provide this as a description, say, for someone who didn't know that? So I would say, like, give an overview. It's an assistant, it's a custom AI system designed to provide valuable insight, support for leadership, coaching, and professional development. It's tailored to offer practical advice that aligns with your leadership style and objectives. So that's kind of what is on the tin, and that's, what it does. Click to link. So that's the link. I'll share that with you in a few moments, so you could also have a look. And once you have your assistant, you're opening in the tab and you're accessing it in the environment, which is the ChatGPT environment. We can check that. How to interact. So this bit's really important. So you could type of questions, enter your question directly into the chat. So this is the bit where you can, when you go into the chat, you're asking these questions, how I can effectively delegate within my team. So that could be something, right? So you might want to go a little bit more specific than that. And so you want the interaction bit, because remember, it's using, the whole idea of LLM is it interacts. It's what they call a chat bot, if you like, right? That's what it does. So that bit's going to be really important, that it does what we've kind of asked it to do. We've given it that knowledge. So you could ask these type of questions. How can I effectively delegate tasks within my team, for example, right? So that the assistant can help with that. Immediate responses, well-informed, tailored to the inquiry, the query. Follow-up questions, feel free to ask follow-up questions. So for example, if the user, being the person that's using the assistant, that, you know, they don't understand what it is that you're asking of them. They're going to ask questions for clarification. So this is really key. It's like when you give something to someone, say, give them a task to do, and they don't really understand what that is, and they might go away and then they come back with the wrong thing. But with this environment, you're kind of getting those follow-up just to kind of clarify. And that's where I think the thought process and it's fantastic in that. It really gets you being concise and really thinking carefully about what it is that you want it to produce. Suggested questions. So I'm going to give you some, like, how can I improve my team morale? How do I balance my professional responsibilities with personal life? What are some effective ways to develop leadership skills in my team? You can ask questions like that, personalized insights. There could be specific challenges, goals, comprehensive topics. You might have a wide range of topics: strategic planning, stress management, practical resources. So these are, I'll show you the resources that I added into my knowledge base that it could understand where to go to get that information. So these could be things like, you know, for your assistant, they could be things like resources, articles, you know, it could be various tools that you're using, so frameworks, that type of thing. And the other thing you want to be doing is ask specific questions. So there's a number of times when we go into you know, we might go into, I'm not saying that something you would do necessarily, but say we might go in and the question's very generic and open. So we're going to get sort of generic response, not kind of specific and related to what we want for our assistant to be doing. So you want to make sure that be specific. So for example, instead of asking questions like, how do I lead better? It's a very open, general, you know, what does that mean? It can mean a number of things, right? So it's still vague, right? So how do I lead a team through a period of change, for example? You could even go even more specific in that, right? So at least we've got context there. We kind of understand it's not just leading, but it's going through a difficult change or a period where maybe there's a change, right? It might ask you follow-up questions there. And so the type of topics that this might explore would be coaching, personal development, and the follow-up insights, the deeper kind of insights, there might be questions. This is something we've just mentioned about feedback, which is improving the assistant. All the suggestions, like any issues that might come up, technical, you know, like say you know, in a company you've got, you know, perhaps you've got technical support. But if you're working and it's yourself and you're serving other people, you may not have that, right, necessarily. And how long does that take? There's like you set up tickets, that type of thing, but you can actually do this and hopefully address it quickly. So conclusion. So it's an empowering tool designed to support leadership and coaching needs, whether you're seeking advice, in-depth guidance, the AI assistant is here to help to achieve your goals. That's kind of what it does in that sense. So let's see if you have any questions. The prompt, so can you explain the purpose of the key features? So the one where you could test it is, say, you could create a prompt, say, what are the key features of this assistant, right? So, you know, once you evoke it in the GPT environment, you could ask that question, right? What knowledge are you using or drawing on? And it should give you that knowledge. So, for example, I asked it earlier on. I said, where are you getting your information from, right? And it said it's given me it's using or calling on 3 documents that I've uploaded in my knowledge base, right, in the section where it says files. And so I've got this as one of the ones there, which is the Bally Brand Voice PDF, which is the tone, beliefs, values, really important, right? This is the thing where GPT doesn't get it right. And this is the bit where we're making it sound more human and like us, because these are the conversations people are having at the moment. Like, how can AI be human? Well, we train it to be like, it has these core beliefs. It kind of understands how we show up in the world and what that means, and the tone and cadence, that type of thing. Brand style. So you may have like the style, tone, messaging. You may have sample communications that you could add. I've included also the ideal client handbook and their needs, challenges, aspirations, and how the services support them. So this is an example, right, of what is contained in one of the PDFs, being number one. So I've not got the whole document. I can show you that if that would help. But what I've done is I've just listed it in this way. By the way, can you remember what this type of file is called? Can you remember the name of that? Remember what it was called? This week we did it. Let me see if you remember. You can pop it in the chat. You can unmute. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to see who this is going to be. Nope, you can't. 5 minutes message and I'm here again. Okay, so let's see. I think Paul might get this one. I think Paul's going to get this one. I have a feeling he'll remember this one. Framework. No, it's not. Right, I was going to give a prize to the person. It's called a markdown text. Oh, yeah, you did it. Yeah, framework markdown. So what you have actually in that is a markdown text. So notice that can be created, and we don't have to so remember the way GPTs, like this OpenAI and other LLMs, they use this kind of coding language, right? So then the basic language is Python, right? It's Markdown, yeah. So when we input it in that way, it understands. So we don't have to kind of like always have these headings as we normally would have, like in kind of manuals, that type of thing. So if you fed it and you've created your own like your personal brand guide or your voice through some writing, you can just get it to create a markdown text, copy it, create a PDF, and upload that into your assistant. Okay, so it is easy as that, really. So we don't have to then think, oh, I've got to go back and tidy that up. It will just lift the information from that. So it saves so much time. So that's an example of what it does. There's a lot more to it. That was kind of the example of the brand voice, the values, and there's like other bits of information. So it understands, right? So all these kind of highlighted words in there. So that was the kind of like test question there, right? So, okay, well done, Paul. Over to you, right? So prize now. Okay, so what I'd like you to mention now is a little bit of your own assistance. So I want for you to kind of now start thinking about what you've created this week. Okay, some of you are going to be ahead. Brilliant. Some of you may not be there yet. That's okay. Okay. And we're going to see if we can find one person who will receive one-to-one coaching with me. We'll have 4 sessions with me and we'll go through this type of thing. Okay. So instead of kind of getting you to share the screen, what I'm going to be asking you to do is to self-assess your assistant, right? And be normally I would do this slightly different, where we like send it and we assess it, but we're going to do it differently. We're going to have that kind of like, okay, openness about it, and we're going to be saying, have you done these things that I've just mentioned here in terms of, and then you can grade it and I'll say how the grading will work, right? So do you feel like if you were to evaluate your assistant and say, how well does your AI system meet the initial goals you set? Okay. Did it achieve the intended task? So I'd like you to, you can take a screenshot of this. I can actually add this in the chat as well so that you can have that. So we're going to give it a grade, and we're going to give it a grade between, I'll say what that looks like, right? And so this brings up quite a lot for us. We're going to be harder on ourselves than other people perhaps would be, right? So it means that there's always going to be something like, yes, I'm really happy with it, like what I've done in these few days, right? Brilliant, right? So we're going to give it a grade. Say if it's a 5, it's excellent. 4 is good. 3 is average. 2 needs work, and 1 you're like, it's like really don't even have anything, right? So it's like I haven't done anything. Functionality and performance. Is the AI assistant reliable, accurate in performing tasks? So have you prompted, have you tested it out? Does it provide consistent and relevant responses? You might not be there yet. So you may not have had time to do that. You'll say, yeah, I've done a little bit, but not quite there. So I still need to kind of check to see. But you might give it a 3 based on some of the prompts and it's worked. Style alignment, does your AI assistant reflect, enhance your leadership style or your voice and your brand? Does it reflect that? Is its communication tone aligned with your style, right? Um, and again, we're going to put these across this way. So imagine the criteria is, this is the goal achievement, the evaluation, and this is where you're assessing it on the considerations bit. Okay, so the 1 to 5, beg your pardon, is the bit where you'd say, well, did it achieve the intended task? You might say, well, it's actually average. So you'll give it a 3. So I want you to give it a number. Or you might say performance. Does it provide consistent, relevant responses? What's its performance like? So then you may say something like, well, it's good, right? So you might give it a 4. Well, for a 4, yes, you would need to give it a 4. Its communication tone, leadership approach, average. How creative and unique are the features of your AI assistant? What new skills or insights did you gain? So here, maybe it's asking you directly, but give it a 1 to 5 there as well. And how do you plan to enhance it further? Hopefully you're going to say, well, I want to get to a high level there. And overall satisfaction, future plans. How will you use your AI system moving forward? So again, you might say, well, how do I grade that? But that's just taking more of a proactive approach as opposed to saying, I've done it, I'm not going to do anything. It's just gonna sit there, right? So I'm gonna ask all of you, if you've got that screenshot, then I can ask you to do that for your own assistant, okay? And I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. So I'll put this, if you like, I can put the screen back up and then you've got that. So we're kind of basing it on these, okay, questions here. Let me put those in there. Let's see if I can get the screen grab. I might put it back on the screen, otherwise it might be harder to do that. Now, the question I have for everybody is, D, I know you had some time out, so D might be just listening in, so that's okay. Have you had a chance, so have you kind of like been working on your assistant, so you're able to evaluate? So basically the winner will, so once we've gone through this, we've looked at what you've done. It doesn't mean it has to be completely, this is going to be a process that you'll add to and adjust, because you might find that you perhaps need to test it a little bit more in terms of prompts, or you might say, I need to just go back to some of the things you were saying, and we can certainly do that. But hopefully you're in a position to evaluate and reflect on what you've been doing this week, and then you can think about that, and then we can share some of those ideas. Is everybody good for 2 minutes while I put it on the screen, and you can have time to go through yours, and hopefully we've got some shares from everyone there. Is everyone good with that? Okay, Jamie's saying yes. Okay, fantastic. So I'll share the screen so you can, okay, Erica's saying, all right, so I'm gonna time you. So we'll put this screen back up so you've got it. And so remember the score is, this is a score, and then we'll kind of tot up the numbers afterwards, right? But yeah, let's do this, and I'll be quiet for 2 minutes while you do that. Okay. Okay, 1 more minute. Okay, a few more seconds. Okay. All right. So let's have a look to see what how you've scored yourself. Okay. So what I tend to do in a program is we go through this and we spend a lot longer, and we go through the assessing and sharing of the actual systems. For the purpose of this challenge, what we're going to be doing is I'm asking you to assess where you are. And by all means, if you want to share the GPT, you can do that. So I can share the one I've done. But before I do that, let me yeah, over to you. Now, once you've got your numbers, you've graded your actual, assistant. What I'd like you to do, it's out of 30, what was the number you gave your assistant? And remember, so some of you are going to be really harsh on yourselves, right? So be kind. You've done amazing work. You're here. You've been learning all week and you've been following through with the video, clips I've shared. So, you know, you wouldn't, you're here after 5 days, which is incredible. So I just want to, sort of, you know, acknowledge that and say great work. So be kind to yourself. There's always more to be done, but you've done so well. So it's out of 30. So let's have a look. Who's brave enough? So 21, Chris, thank you. So you got 21, 15. You got 15, so that's 50%. Okay, 20. Okay, so I know D might not be able to 12. Okay, so okay, so we've got some high numbers there and we've got 12. Jamie, I just want to ask, is that what has led you to putting a 12 there? Because I know you were working towards this. Okay, I get it. Okay, so you need to determine your style better. So at the moment, have you tested it through the prompts? Have you been doing that? Is that what you've been doing?
Yeah, I've tested it through prompts and stuff, but I need to kind of just expand it more and give it more information, and especially about my style, which my style is I don't have a clue. So I have to go back to some old things I've written that and um, and see what that likes. And also, my goal is to have this help with not like fully write LinkedIn posts, but I'd like it to get it into a format that is more appropriate for LinkedIn. So
Okay,
I'm
so
getting there.
yeah, absolutely. That style guide will really help because it will start identifying the style you've got too. So so I'm happy to kind of share the file that I used. Yeah, so maybe that might help when you're, thinking of your style guide and help, when you're so this is kind of what I ended up doing. So the Bally Biz brand voice is just a file. I'm happy to share that with everyone that's here. And that's kind of the brand biz brand voice. And so that I saved into a PDF, which then I uploaded into this, the knowledge base, which I can show you in a moment. But let me acknowledge everybody here first. We've got Crest, you got 21. Congratulations. Congratulations. So what do you reckon, everyone? Crest to get the 4 hours one-to-one coaching. Let's celebrate. Crest, can you hear me?
Hi, sorry, I couldn't find my unmute button. Thank you so much.
Welcome. You're welcome. Well done. Congratulations. So what we'll do, what I'll do is I'll follow up and with you, and then we can arrange for those and go through what it is that you're doing, right? In serving your clients. So that'll be amazing. We can definitely get those. Incredible. Excited to hear that. So what would you, as you're unmuted now as well, I just want to ask you, are you back on mute, but just want to ask you so you've given yourself 21. Where would you say, what are the things that have worked for you?
I like the way that it prompts itself. So it actually, like, it'll ask me questions like the prompts will come up at the bottom. For example, today I've been doing social media posts with it. And I input the brand voice that I want it to use.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really consistent with that, really consistent with the hashtags. And also, when I realized that something wasn't in the settings, when I was chatting to it, I said, "Can you upload it to the settings from our chat?" And it was like, "Yes, I'll upload that to your settings now."
Brilliant.
So it's been, yeah, really, really helpful. And I guess areas for improvement is just that I need to add in more information for it to feed off.
Yeah, fantastic. So that's great that it's doing what you've kind of, if you've trained it to do. That's fantastic. You've got examples, like you said, works that you've been able to input, and then based on that, it's able to produce the outputs. It understands, right? So what we're doing here is training it. That's fantastic. And there's always going to be that thing where you're going to check it, right? So there's always going to be that thing, that beginning, if you remember the thread, the beginning of that chat is the thing that it kind of first gets, but it starts understanding the way you converse with it as well, which is amazing. So fantastic. Congratulations. I can't wait to see how you're getting on. And like I said, I'll reach out to you and we'll work together and make this happen. It's exciting. And we'll compare different models as well. And we can go through that so you can get a feel for other ways of drawing on other tools too, right? But this space is fantastic. If it just saves time. And
I know it's been so, I'm just mind blown. It's so great.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, that's fantastic. So let me go back to kind of the actual, I'm going to open up Chat GPT as well, because as we've been talking about it, congratulations, by the way, it's fantastic. By the way, you're all winners, because I'll be reaching out to all of you and offering you a coaching conversation with me and see how you're getting on. And we can do this because once you start working on this, you're going to have questions. So that's what we'll do. So if in the next few days, I'll follow up with everybody. So in terms of our Chat GPT kind of conversations, we want to test it. We want to go in, and I'll show you the one I've been just talking about, and I'll put it up on the screen in a moment. Just as a kind of recap, I know that Dee, you may not have seen the actual clips already, but just in case you haven't, that when we're in this space where obviously we will say the environment, right? I always say kind of like which space are we in, but we're in this environment at the moment, and then we've got our own assistants. So if I add in on that one, but I've got my own, let me see if I go into my own chat. So I just want to get myself out of the way so I can actually click on that button. So every time I want to create, we go in here just as a little recap. And this is untitled, maybe it's just one I've opened and saved. The one I've been talking about is this one here today. So once you have these, you'll see I've added a picture of that challenge on there. And if I want to share that, so what we can do now, the other thing is when we come to kind of work, and anyone decides to, for those of you who want to come and work with me, I'd love that. And we sort of go into sharing these links. So we, you know, if you take a copy of that, I'll share this one with you here, and you can see, and in the conversation you can see what does it do, you know. So if I was to say who are you, right? So it should tell me who they are. And that's a really open question, right? And Bally, your AI system designed to embody Bally brand face. My purpose is to help navigate challenges, beg your pardon. I'm not able to read as quickly as it writes. Here to provide guidance, motivation, and tools you need to thrive in your leadership. Okay. Okay. So then I can just prompt it in a way, and I can stop it, and it's not asking me too much there, but it's bringing that, so it's asking, you know, it's knowing who I am. Just got to see, we've got a question in that. I'm just going to, before I continue, I'm going to answer that question. Oh, you're yes, fantastic. Valid point, yes, brilliant. Oh, you're welcome. And so yeah, it kind of, it's, you know, if I say, you know, give me the names, if I put that in, give me the names of the documents, right? So, or I can say docs. Let's see if it understands docs. So once you've done it, it should be able to list all of the documents there. And that's where, which I really like, right? So I know that it's kind of understanding how I've trained it. So if I want to add anything else, then I'll obviously if I want to edit, like we talked about editing, updating it, I might do that. I may then have these capabilities at the beginning we were talking about, you know, like for Erica, where you're adding in Dali, you want to click that. Now, when I'm trying to create something, so also this could be for LinkedIn post as well, Crest, because you may not want to go back into your general GPT environment. You may want to stay in this, and sort of, you know, create the content directly there rather than having to jump. Because if I try to create, say, a file, any type of, say, Excel spread, basically creates Excel data and things like that as well, right? So it's a different level. But if I asked it to do that, it may not be able to do that if I haven't clicked on, say, some of the, you know, kind of like web browsing or DALL-E generation for infographics. So code interpreters, these are when you're linking with external software, then you would add in your, you know, the key, if you like. So keeping it simple, but you'd kind of do that in that setup. That's kind of where that space is. So, so yeah, that's how I've done mine. You might give it a picture, or you might do it. So if you had it for a client, you might do something similar. You can certainly share that with them. And, you know, I mean, they'd be really happy if you did something like that for them, because it saves time. Because initially, the setup itself takes a time, as Crest has probably I'm sure would say. But then once you have it, it saves time. Like whether it's the responses, whether it's like having the email, you know, it's the idea is to be able to kind of understand your style and create it in that way. And of course, more we train it, the better it will be, right? And just in terms of, so yeah, we've got our winner, okay? And so you can work out the percentages as well. So I ended up kind of doing mine, and ended up getting like 56%. So I was a little bit like, I want to add more to this, right? So thanks for everybody. Like I said, you will all I'll be offering you everyone a one-to-one coaching. When we started this week, and we said like by the end of this week, by day 5, you will have, you know, you will have an AI tool. You've got access to that. You customize your settings. We talked a little bit again about like where you might modify the settings. But, you know, by now you've all done that. I know the instructions, and to include to build my own AI assistant from here on. I want, you know, all of you to be able to create your own assistants. You've got many of those. You'll you know, be able to have that call on. You've tested it, so you will have done that. Well done. You've all done that today and receive feedback. And the feedback, definitely, what I'll do is once I email you, I'll say, you know, an assistant you're working on and you're happy to share, you can pop that in the actual email to me and share the link, and so that you're okay with that. Sometimes people are a little bit like, okay, this is stuff that I want to keep private, so but yeah, share that with me and then we can work on that one. Okay, I know what my next steps are. Hoping everybody knows what they're going to be doing next from this, these 5 days here. So we can, kind of coming back to that point, let's just double check everybody knows. I want everybody, before I continue my last couple of points, does everybody know what their next step would be in terms of their, the next action step? Erica, what would it be for you? So let's have a look.
Sorry, I was turning off the AC. I'll be like really loud. So my next step will be like testing it more, uploading more files into it. So like creating like a more information for the program itself. Yes, and also like really focusing on, I think like the voice brand is something that I feel like I need to really develop. I was doing more the business brand, but I think my voice brand is really important to create all the other documents. So that's next for me. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've got like examples of that, sometimes we want to cut back on time. If you've got examples, you can upload that example and then ask it to create a markdown format file for you, and then check to see if it aligns with your brand, your values, because this is the bit that I think the piece that you felt that was perhaps missing, that doesn't align with you, it doesn't sound like you. And if you've got an example of that, or like you've written something, or somebody's written something for you that resonates, and that's the brand that you want to, that's kind of the sense. Or even maybe you've had a copywriter doing stuff for you, right? You're like, okay, use this style, this resonates with my voice style. Now create a brand style guide based, or you can ask it almost to, what do you need to create a brand style guide, from me, right? You can even kind of do that. So that's great. That's going to be next action point. So Paul, what about for you? And you can type, you can unmute. Let's see what Paul's is. I might be listening in. We might hear from Paul in a moment. I know Dee's listening in, and Dee's in a meeting. So so Cress, what's the next?
Bally?
Yeah.
Can I
Erica.
ask you something? With the voice brand, like how could you, like if there's a brand itself that I like, right? That I like, it resonates with me. Like, I don't know, Laura Piano or MS or something. Like how would you go into creating an assistant with that voice? Like how would you do it?
So what I would do is I'd get kind of, if you've got examples of their text, their writing, you've got things like that. So I would use that, and then I'd ask it to say, so what are some of the key features that stand out as a brand? So I'd basically use GPT to help me kind of really extract what would become some of those key features within that. And then you can start feeding it into your own, if that makes sense, because nothing is out there is just like we're all kind of one, we're very different, because we're all similar, but we want something that stands out and makes us shine. So I would use that and say, okay, this resonates with me, and create a brand guide based on that, and you can see and test it out. So just get it to create a brand guide for you using GPT. I can show you when we meet.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, and Paul saying to investigate more complex features. Okay, yeah, you definitely can do that. And what you want to be doing is maybe more the thinking, perhaps that goes on that you're wanting to do. You can investigate. You can get ChatGPT to do that for you, in fact, as well, so that you're not having to do that. You're kind of you're almost like giving it something and asking it to give you a bit of information back in terms of prompting. But yeah, that's great. That is really, complex features. So a little bit more, maybe we can definitely talk about what that might look like. So for D, if you're able to, you can pop it in the chat. I know Jamie says you're going to be collecting more, you're going to be getting more of the files and then, kind of getting that style, if you like, the voice basically, again, that aligns with you. Sometimes that can be a challenge in itself. Like, how does, I've got all this information. Maybe we've had several jobs where we worked and your kind of, I would say your identity was in that role. Perhaps you kind of, now you're perhaps setting up and perhaps this social media manager, or you're doing something different. Now you're like, okay, what does that mean? And then like for Erica, she's like, got this as well, but you can then, you want to fine tune it. You want the kind of the language, the way the kind of the descriptors they use, the way the language and the stories. So it might be the way things are communicated that resonate more. So I would say, what is it that you kind of appeal to? So somebody's just telling me something flat, there's no creativity in it. I'm like, okay, they've just written that. Anybody, like, I love working with ChatGPT, but it might just give me something very general and robot-like. Whereas what we're doing is we're training it to be human-like, and that's what we want to be able to do. So, so I think Crest has also got her point too. So before we finish, what I'd love for your feedback, guys. I know it's been amazing. I've loved and enjoyed every moment of this. And it's been a pleasure serving you. And I'd love like your feedback on how I can, the feedback is going to help me provide or be able to offer this to other people. I'd love to hear what worked well, what could be improved, and how was this how's this challenge impact the way you work. And you can let me know what that's like. You can pop it in a private chat and let me know, or you can kind of just pop it in there, or just say in a couple of sentences how that's helped you as, like as you move forward. I'm going to ask Jamie. Jamie, how have you found it?
It's been great. I mean, you've definitely opened up a completely different side of ChatGPT to use to make it not just a thing that comes out with drafts, but something that I can more manipulate into what I'm looking for, into something more specific. So, I mean, and the format of this, an hour a day, worked really well with my schedule, so I enjoyed that. So yeah, no, overall, I think it was a great experience.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I'm excited to see how, your assistant comes along as well. And one of the things we end up feeling like we need to add more information to it, but you might get to a point where you're like, okay, like this is enough for now, and I can always add and fine tune and let's get it working, like there's always going to be something else. So yeah, I can see that. Like if you can set yourself, like everybody, right? Not just for Jamie, but for all of us, right? We can set ourselves like, okay, I'm going to have one assistant, I'm going to have it ready, and I'm going to be working with it, because you've all started doing that already this week, which is amazing. And what it will do is you'll start thinking about maybe having a copywriter or someone, if you're creating content, like, you like a way people convey their messaging through storytelling, that might be something that you might kind of want to add at some point. You may decide to that, it may not be for you. Okay, so any feedback, I'd love that. And we've got a couple of minutes, so if you want to let me know. Crest, how have you found it? I know you weren't able to make it, so I just want to know if you've been able to, because one of the questions that came up the other day was like, okay, so if somebody's missed something, how, do you feel you're able to still, be involved if you're missing it? I know Dee's probably listening in at the moment, she's at work.
Yeah, I thought it was really great, and the timing worked out really well for me because it was from 4 to 5, and I usually would have to finish work around 5 anyways because of childcare. And it was really clear from the get-go, you explained what we're going to be doing every day. And I knew every day I was looking forward to, okay, 4 o'clock, gotta work on my AI assistant. Let's do this today. And then even the day that I had to miss, I didn't, it was okay because you showed us the day before what we were going to do the next day. So from that, I was able to kind of go into ChatGPT myself and play around and figure some things out. And then I really like that you send us the recordings afterwards as well. And so we can always look back on that.
Yeah,
too.
you're welcome. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's been, yeah, I've, I loved every moment with, spending time with you and learning from you, because we're all growing in this environment. Remember, it's still very, very early days, and more we do it so that it aligns with our human and our values and how we show up in the world, the more kind of and the more kind of that messaging and more will attract those that we want to serve. So it's been a pleasure, and I'm excited to see you, Crest. Congratulations once again. And I will reach out to all of you, and I will share this last recording as well so that you can go back. And did I add the GPT? Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, fantastic. I'm excited for you. So I regret not being able to attend each day, but I'm grateful. You're welcome, Dee. I'm really pleased. I know you've got you're at the moment busy with your schedule. So yep, that's great feedback. Let me give you the GPT that we talked about today before I go, and so you can see how that's shared. So when you come to sharing yours, hopefully that ought to work, and of course you will be in that space. When you're in the GPT, that's kind of the space, the environment we will be obviously being able to access this. So I'm just going to pop it in the chat that you've got it as I promised it as well, and I'll do that before we go. Okay, so that's the GPT, and that's clickable. It's a link. Like I said, I've kept these private, these ones that we've been discussing here, and you can of course make them publicly available. And I'm excited to hear how you get on with your assistants. Great work, everyone. I will share that recording in the next few hours. Okay, and have a great rest of your Friday, everyone.
Thank you, Bally.
Bye. You're welcome. Bye, everyone. Ciao.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Bye
Well
now.
done, everyone.
Yay, exactly. You did amazing work, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.